Caleb Mopan, old friend of the show, journalist, broadcaster, speaker, and political analyst, to which we need to add the word author. He's the author of several books, but the one in question is his book on Kamala Harris. Caleb, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. Since I last spoke to you 48 hours ago, I understand Amazon have put the book back up for sale. Let's clear that one up first.
Sure. Yesterday, or actually Monday evening, without any explanation, I received an email. Your book has been published on Amazon. And that seems to be the fact that they, with no explanation, similar to the manner in which it was taken down, they put it back up. For those who maybe want to get caught up on what happened, I wrote this book, and if you have this edition of the book, it's a collector's item. I wrote this book. I published it on August. Yeah, I published it on August 31st, 2020. After Kamala Harris became Joe Biden's vice presidential nominee. And it sold a few hundred copies, got some good reviews. And it was reviewed in the Morning Star over in the UK. It was reviewed in some newspapers in India. And, it didn't get a huge amount of circulation, but that was fine. And everything was fine with it. And then on Sunday, July 21st, Joe Biden stepped down and did not announce he was going to run once again. He made clear he was not seeking the presidency. And then the next day, Monday, the media started coronating Kamala Harris. And it was Monday evening, 7:26 p.m. local time. I got an email from Amazon telling me there was an issue with the cover of the book, which is odd. But I immediately uploaded it with a new cover because I figured, hey, if there's an issue with the cover, I don't want to lose any time. Kamala Harris is in the news. Wouldn't let me upload it. And then I tried again, denied. I tried again, denied. I tried to upload it about 7 times on Tuesday. Each time was denied. So I put it on Lulu.com, which is an alternative to Amazon, and it was selling quite well. And then Thursday, people started tweeting at me and texting me about how they could no longer process transactions on Lulu, and their credit cards were all being denied when they tried to buy the book on Lulu.com. So I started selling the PDF of it on a website called Gumroad, where I just sold the PDF file of it. And now Monday, it seems like after a huge amount of attention was given to the book, a lot of outrage from people like Max Blumenthal, Jimmy Dore, Candace Taylor, all kinds of people from all kinds of sides of the political spectrum spoke up. Now Amazon, with no explanation, has spoken up. What's interesting, though, is that this seems to fit in with a bigger scandal because at this point it's been revealed that Google seemed to be manipulating searches to hurt Donald Trump, to not acknowledge the attempted assassination that took place earlier this month. A lot has been going on the part of the tech giants, and the removal of this book, this seems to fit in with a whole pattern of trying to skew things online to serve one candidate.
Well, that's the very subject I wanted to come on to, so a perfect segue. We have on this day Amazon taking your book off and then being forced to put it back on because I don't want to act as a spoiler. It's not very complimentary about Kamala Harris, your book, and rightly so. They took it down for that reason, not for any other reason, not anything to do with the cover. The owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, having disappeared into the grisly embrace, grisliest of embraces from Netanyahu, has now launched what can only be described as a regime change jihad against the elected government of Venezuela, totally abusing his own platform that he owns, posting fake videos, getting readers noted for putting up videos from 2017 as if they were videos from today or yesterday. Elon Musk has joined a regime change operation being mounted by the US deep state, having, of course, paraded his wares as the nemesis of deep state control of Twitter in the first place. And the Google example that you give is evident to all of us who are trying to follow the Donald Trump assassination story. The question is, how can you find anything written about it? There's nothing going on, as if it had never happened. And an issue, an incident of the gravest importance that could have changed the whole world if it had succeeded is now effectively, like Hunter Biden's laptop story, disappeared by the tech giants. Your comments?
Well, I think Nicolas Maduro had it right yesterday when he said that the same American government, the same forces that tried to kill Donald Trump, that killed John F. Kennedy, are now trying to destabilize Venezuela. And it's interesting that Maduro would say that because Donald Trump was not great to Venezuela as president. But we now understand the people within his administration who pushed for that were people like John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, who later betrayed Donald Trump. So these things are nuanced and complicated. Donald Trump is not trusted by the foreign policy apparatus of the United States, the same foreign policy apparatus that's trying to destabilize Venezuela, fomenting all kinds of fake news and inciting revolt in that country. And let me add, the same color revolution apparatus, the same international global revolution apparatus that has anointed Kamala Harris. Let's not forget, I believe it's Kamala Harris's niece lives in India, where she works for George Soros NGOs to try and destabilize India and bring down Modi and the government of Modi in India. And let's also not forget that the Hillary Clinton State Department and the forces that ran it are the very forces that backed Kamala Harris in 2020 and pushed for her to be included on the Democratic ticket as VP in 2020 by Joe Biden. And if you look at the Hillary Clinton State Department, what they did during Barack Obama's first term as president, the damage is massive. The world is still recovering from the destruction of Libya. If you look at that country, that was once the most prosperous country in Africa, and now it's in ruin. People are drowning in the Mediterranean trying to get out of the disaster that was created by military intervention in that country. The Syrian civil war that was fomented, 500,000 dead, if not more, millions of refugees. And Barack Obama himself got rid of Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and replaced her with John Kerry in his second term. And you'll notice that U.S. foreign policy shifted. Barack Obama's second term was focused on the Iran nuclear deal, establishing diplomatic relations with Cuba, the FARC negotiations in Colombia. Barack Obama wanted to be known as a peacemaker, and that Hillary Clinton State Department was doing all kinds of things without Barack Obama's knowledge and permission, and that was revealed. And I talk about that in the book and how Biden very much did not want Kamala Harris to be his VP, and there are divisions within our American elite. I argue that there are many within the military and many within the American anti-terrorism apparatus that just don't want another Arab Spring. And they look at Kamala Harris and say, this is another Arab Spring waiting to happen. This is a woman who has been groomed by the color revolution apparatus, by Anne Marie Slaughter and Samantha Power and all the forces that did so much damage during Barack Obama's first term. That's what Kamala Harris will bring in. And her record as a vicious prosecutor, her ties to George Soros and others, Kamala Harris's presidency is a very, very dangerous thing for the world.
Well, I've seen her dancing, I've seen her jiving, I've heard her jive talking. She's in full, I'm a young, sexy black woman mode at the moment. She sends twerkers out front to warm up the crowd. I mean, it's like an episode of the Blues Brothers watching her presidential campaign. How is she doing?
Well, according to mainstream media, she's just doing amazingly well. I mean, all the American people are just lining up to support her. The facts on the ground tell a little bit of a different story. I mean, we have never seen this level of amping up support for one candidate. You have what was done to my book. You have the number of news stories about how reporting on people should like Kamala because they already like Kamala. They have pulled out all the stops for Kamala Harris. But the facts remain that the American people don't much care for her, and that if she wants to present herself as someone who should inherit the legacy of Black Lives Matter, She has a lot of explaining to do about what she did as a prosecutor, about how the drug lab scandal of 2010 involved at least 1,000 people who went to jail or had criminal convictions overturned because her office was covering up that drug labs were turning over false positive results and people were being reported to have been using drugs when they weren't. She mocked Black Lives Matter protesters. She marched around the stage in Chicago in 2013 saying, build more schools, less jails, in this sarcastic, mocking voice. She was the queen of mass incarceration. Kevin Cooper was just 4 hours away from getting the death penalty. And the governor of California wanted DNA evidence to make sure he was actually guilty of the crime. And her office stepped in and tried to stop it and tried to prevent DNA evidence from being acquired. She wanted an innocent man dead. This is Kamala Harris. She's a very, very dangerous person with no qualms. I mean, her office actually argued on multiple occasions for keeping people in jail because they needed their cheap labor pool, that it was cheaper to use prison laborers than it was to use law-abiding citizens. And people were going to be kept in jail not on the basis of justice or the crimes they committed or whatnot, but on the basis of saving money, to avoid hiring people. This is outrageous. I mean, this is a person who doesn't really care about other people and how her actions affect them. And my book gets into a lot about where Kamala Harris came from, in particular, the Marxist father who has denounced her that no one wants to talk about. Her 85-year-old father who lives in Jamaica and has denounced her campaign. And that whole story, the baggage that she's got around that. There's so much that no one is talking about. When Barack Obama ran for president, we knew everything about him. We knew his mother. We knew his father. We knew the school he went to in Indonesia. We knew who his pastor was. We know nothing about Kamala Harris except she's funny sometimes and she has a laugh that is catchy. A lot of people think it's a little bit demented, but it's supposed to be a catchy laugh, and we're supposed to vote for her on that basis. The more you dig into who she really is, you realize this is a frightening case of somebody brought in by a very frightening wing of our American deep state.
Well, the best way to deep dive into Kamala Harris is to get your book. We'll come back to it at the end of this interview. I want to ask you, though, one quite important question. I saw someone that I worked with 30 years ago in the States and respected, Dr. Phyllis Bennis. I saw her on television effectively shilling for Kamala Harris as someone who will be tougher on Netanyahu, who'll be more sympathetic to the Palestinian agony than Biden and certainly Trump. Was Dr. Bennis an outrider there, or is this a thing?
Well, anyone who's worked as a Palestine solidarity activist in the Bay Area will tell you that Kamala Harris is very much an Israeli creation. Starting from when she became the district attorney of San Francisco, she was going on regular trips to Israel, being wined and dined and given the all-star treatment by the Israeli government. And when she would meet with Palestine activists, when they would come to her office, she would sit there and silently look at them, no questions, not even really listening to what they were saying. She has never been a friend of the Palestinians. But what I think we're seeing here is an attempt for the Democratic Party to try and keep the votes of Muslim Americans. Because in Michigan, which is a very key state in the upcoming election, you got lots of Muslims. Dearborn, Michigan is the highest concentration of Arab Americans in the country. And they see what Genocide Joe has done, and they're not going to go and vote for him like they once did because they see what he's doing and the license he's giving Israel. Minnesota has a lot of Muslims in it. Wisconsin has a lot of Muslims in it. There's been a lot of Muslim migration to the United States. And because of that, the Democrats very much want to present an understanding that they're not running Joe Biden. They're running someone new, someone, with family from the developing world, et cetera. But when it gets down to it, this is what we saw under Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a 21st century Napoleon, right? We all know what Napoleon did. When Napoleon was trying to conquer Egypt and trying to drive out the British Empire and conquer Egypt and Syria for the French, He put up posters everywhere saying that he was a Muslim and they should follow him and he was going to be their friend against the British. Well, Napoleon was lying. It was a lie. He was just trying to gain the trust of the people there, and his staff joked about it. Napoleon wasn't a Muslim. Napoleon was simply trying to fake out the population, and that's what Barack Obama did. They rolled him out. He was going to reset everything from the Bush years. His middle name was Hussein. He'd been to a Muslim school. He's had Twitter wars with Netanyahu. But look what happened under Barack Obama. Libya was destroyed. Syria was reduced to chaos and civil war. Barack Obama was no friend of the Muslim world, and Israel got exactly what they wanted. And that's what will happen under Kamala Harris, but there will be a lot of smoke and mirrors and virtue signaling and theater. Donald Trump is honest about his ties to Netanyahu and his loyalty to Israel. Kamala Harris is trying to play games with the people, and I think that's what we need to recognize. The other thing that's worth noting is that after leaving office, Donald Trump noted very strongly how Netanyahu betrayed him. And he made a very, very public, acknowledgement of the fact that Netanyahu stabbed him in the back as he was leaving office. And that if you read Donald Trump's follow-up book, he wrote The Art of the Deal, but he also wrote The Art of the Comeback. And one of the things he talks about in The Art of the Comeback is payback and keeping track of who betrays you, and how when you have a downfall, that's a moment to know who stabbed you in the back and who your real friends are. So you have to wonder how much of a friend of Netanyahu Trump will really be after what happened when he left office.
Show us the book and tell us how we can get it, Caleb.
Well, it's back on Amazon, but you can get it on Gumroad. You can get it on Lulu. It's available, a new edition. And we actually are planning to distribute it in bulk at the Democratic National Convention, because the fact that they pulled it and tried to suppress it shows that there's probably a lot of people who need to hear its content. So we're currently raising funds to distribute it in bulk at the Democratic National Convention to anyone who's there and cares to take a copy.
Everyone watching, buy it on the most convenient platform. And very much glad to see you again, Caleb. Thanks for coming on the mother of all talk shows. Best of luck with the relaunched book.